Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
I can't believe we had to fly her back.
You know, I was thinking it might have been cheaper if we put her up at a cheap hotel.
Like the Motel 8. Yeah, we could probably have found a golden retriever to keep her company while she was here. But we have the privilege of having Tracy Flewelling back, author and woodworker, and has an amazing story of overcoming hardship and some lessons to teach us all. We will continue the narrative from last week. Please welcome Tracy. Welcome back to The Third Chair. I'm Peter. That man claims to be Doug, and we are with our special guest, Tracy Flewelling. Did I get that closer?
Well done. That was very good.
Yeah, that's
You've been practicing
Welsh.
All week?
I've been practicing all week. Yeah, I was the Canadian Welsh dancing champion for 4 years running in college.
You were?
I was. That's right. And maybe I'll tell a few.
I was there when he won it a third time.
That and Yahtzee. So thanks for.
He cheated in the Yahtzee and it was taken away from him.
Yeah, I tried to use 12 dice.
It's like that Cool Runnings movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had loaded dice. I mean, the dollars.
Yeah. In case you missed last week's episode, Tracy was telling the story of meeting her husband Neil, and then Neil developed rather quickly a horrible esophageal cancer, and you literally spent the last month of his life with him in the hospital day and night. This was before COVID.
Right.
And I know people would like to know, how did you get through that? And were there, looking back on it now 4 years later, life lessons that you took from that time?
Yeah, there were. So, we had found out December 21st that something was the matter, and then we found out on the 26th that it was cancer. And so from December 26th to January 21st, we had one appointment for a PET scan, and that was it. It's difficult because there are many, many people with cancer, and they need attention. So you feel like you're the only one. There's many, many people out there. But a couple things that were going on. Neil was developing pain in his arm, and he was unable to do much with it. And we were going to need to get scheduled an appointment to get a feeding tube because he couldn't take any nutrition in. And also he had cancer, so we needed to get chemotherapy started. And we just were not able to get, phone calls weren't working, things weren't working. So we had an appointment where we were going to go back and see the results of his PET scan. And his sister, Robin, who's a nurse, went with us to be like an extra set of ears, which is actually a really good idea because when you get that news, you're like getting all sort of information. So if you can have someone you love and trust that's there to hear, then you can kind of converse about it later. So anyway, the day that we were going to go for that appointment, we were feeling this like a rising tension of cancer growing unthwarted by the modern miracles of medicine, And so I actually was talking to my pastor's wife, who is a dear friend of mine, and I said to her, I need for you to pray that Neil becomes a priority. He's not a priority right now. I know there are other people in need, but so are we, and we need Neil to be a priority today. And so she said she would, and so we toddled off to the hospital about an hour away, or the cancer center, and we went in and sat down with the doctor, and Robin and I were in chairs, and Neil was on the exam table, and the doctor brought up on the screen the image of the PET scan, And he started talking, and he didn't even get a sentence out. And I looked over at Neil, and his eyes just rolled back in his head, and he fell over. And I thought he was dying. I mean, it was just one of those moments where this is it, he's dead. But he had just passed out, and it got really crazy. And immediately we were I was with Robin. Neil was in an ambulance, went to the hospital, and two things happened. One, Neil became a priority. He was an absolute priority. He was in the emergency room at the hospital, and very, very quickly we found out that he had multiple blood clots in his arm, so they got him on the medicine. We had an appointment, for surgery for the feeding tube the next day, and then after that he had his first chemotherapy. So all of that happened, that God did make Neil a priority. That was an answer to prayer. But something else that happened that is really special to me is that when the doctor was starting to explain what about Neil's cancer, and he got one sentence out, and that we never had another appointment where we heard the rest of the story. Well, what the doctor would have said was it was stage 4 and aggressive and very, very serious, and really probably should have recommended, at least given the option of what they call, what do they call it?
Hospice?
Not
Palliative
hospice,
care?
but palliative care.
Yeah.
But we never heard that. We didn't know that. And so as we went through from January 21st until March 7th or 8th, and beyond, we didn't know that. We didn't know how bad. We knew it was bad, but we didn't know how bad it was. So we didn't spend a minute thinking, oh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, he's going to die. We spent our minutes thinking, planning for the future and doing what we had always done, which was our thing, was to connect with people. We just felt like every event in our lives was a chance to connect and make a difference in someone else's life. So that was a huge gift to me. So Neil had a couple treatments, and then a couple chemo treatments, and I have to say that even during the chemo treatments, he would be so sick that you couldn't touch him. Any smell would make him sick. But even then, when we couldn't touch, across the room we would make eye contact when a meaningful interaction had happened. And that is such a gift and a memory to me, that we were not distracted by the terribleness of it all.
Wow.
I feel like that was a gift God gave me, and I know that it's not that way for everyone. And cancer, it is scary. There's a lot of scary stuff. Well, that last month, Neil ended up having to go down to Portland and have a surgery, and it was just, things were just bad. He just was unable to not be hospitalized. And while he was in the hospital, a friend had given me a book called Trusting God by Jerry Bridges that was written in the 80s, and I was able to sit and soak that in. That information about that we can trust God even in the face of the worst. And I was just in a place where I could soak that in almost on a cell level.
Wow.
That I do know that is true. I know that not everybody feels that way, but I know that I can trust God. And that was a really, really special time. And one quick story, not very close to the end. Neil, we had a tractor, and I would drive the tractor, and Neil would use hand motions to, up, down, whatever. Well, when we were in the hospital, that's how Neil would tell me how to move his bed. He would use the same hand motions, So one day he had, showed me, I need to get up, I need to go to the bathroom. It was probably about 3 a.m, and so I leapt into action because I'm somewhat high energy. And I stood up to leap into action, and I passed out, and I fell down. And that's all I know. But the next thing I know, the nurses were picking me up, and I just had not been eating enough, and a lot of stress. But I remember Neil said to me after all of the hubbub died down, he said, I wondered if I would still be able to help you. And I was able to help you. So right to the end, Neil had a heart for others. And I hope I can say this. When we found out that at the very end, a doctor came in who just had terrible delivery and just basically said, "You should just go home and die." I mean, I'm not kidding. That is what the doctor said. Neil looked at me and he said, "I didn't think I was here to die. I thought I was here to help others." And
Oh, wow.
that is the gift that God gave us by not letting us find out, because we were
Wow.
not distracted by that. We were able to be focused on the important thing in front of us and let God just deal with all that stuff out there.
Wow.
So that life
That's-
lesson I still hold.
Wow. That's very, very powerful. Well, we're going to take a quick break to catch our breath, and when we come back, Doug, I think, is going to ask you some questions about the book that Neil wrote. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Grigg, a life and recovery coach with Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. I've had the pleasure and privilege of helping people for over 25 years. I want to hear your story, support and encourage you while we partner together to help you reach your goals. I can help you. I am certain I can help you. I can be your guide, role model, resource person, and help you get results. What's my coaching frameworks? I'm an eclectic coach drawing from a variety of disciplines and frameworks with evidence-based proven methods. What would you like to work on? Some popular areas are goal setting and attainment, building and maintaining motivation, finding purpose, personal development, recovery from drug and alcohol addiction problems, health and wellness, life planning, athletic and creative artist performance enhancement, maybe something else. Just ask me. I would love to help you. You can find my services on Fiverr.com.
Welcome to the third chair. Peter is in a jolly mood. He loves talking. He loves talking about cancer.
There's a twisted sense of humor.
I just love it when you realize it's your turn to welcome us back, and that I'm not going to start speaking.
So Tracy, you wrote a book about your last few months with Neil. Can you tell us why you wrote the book?
Yeah. Well, when Neil got sick, one of the things he wanted very badly to do was write a book. I think he just had so much in him that he wanted. And one of his sisters has, well, several of his family members do write, but one of his sisters had published several books, and I remember them FaceTiming and talking about it. But, of course, you know, things progressed so quickly that he really wasn't able to get that done. And so I just kind of thought about that in the year after, because I didn't actually do this until about a year after Neil passed, about a year and a quarter. And I remember one day thinking how sad it was that Neil didn't get to write a book. And I was also thinking about marriage and long marriages and how much, especially when we marry young, we sort of grow each other up. Who we are as in our 50s and 60s has got a lot to do with who we hung around with in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And one day I thought, I'm kind of the book Neil wrote. You know, he poured his life into me. Neil was the tool that God used to show me God and teach me lessons. And I thought, and also because God was just like saying all sorts of things to me. And, you know, some of the stories we shared, I thought, those would really encourage Neil's family, my friends. I should do that. And so I did. And it's what I call a healthy consolation. Because I had reached a point in my grieving. When Neil, I always used to say, if Neil ever died, I would cry every day for a year. And I was not kidding. I cried every day for more than probably a year and a half. It took about a year and a half. I remember at about a year and a half out, one day I was at church and I had a conversation with someone, and afterwards I thought, ooh, that felt like Tracy. And it's the first time I'd seen Tracy in a year and a half, because it was just, there was just so much to process in losing your very best friend. And so anyway, I thought I should do that. But so I'd reached a point where, you know, I would work all day in the shop, and I would come in and I would sit down on the couch and I would play a video and play a game on my phone. And I was just like, ugh, you know, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. This became such a healthy consolation, because for a couple months I was gathering information, I was entering it in the computer, I was, you know, gathering photos and stuff, and it became a very healthy consolation. And it also changed what I did in the evenings. Like, it became, you know, it takes 30 days to build a habit. I got a new habit in my evenings. And so that was really written for, I wanted to bless and encourage Neil's family and my friends. I have what I call the 4 walls, 4 couples that were just like, came right around me and surrounded me. Other friends did too, but these 4 solid couples, you know. So my original printing, you know, when I had it printed, I did enough for all of his family, my family, and the 4 walls. And it was well received, and a couple people ordered some. And then later, a couple people ordered more. So I figure, you know how when, you know, if you go to the bookstore and they have New York bestseller or so many, if I ever do another printing, I'm going to get a sticker that says over 25 copies printed.
Over 25 copies printed.
Yeah.
Well, I read the book, and I think I mean, in general, it can be for like anybody who has a situation like yours, how to handle it, you know, with grace. And, you know, you know, you talk about the tough moments, but the good moments, about writing, I mean, things you can do. And so, I mean, to me, it could be a book that anybody could want to read,
Very
especially in a cancer situation. So did you have somebody just print the books when it's,
well,
somebody orders it? Or?
It's an online, it's through Blurb. And am I allowed to say that? Can I say that? Yeah, okay. And so, oh no, I didn't think I was going to hear the noise. I heard the noise. Or was that just gas?
Well, it's Peter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
chili
it is.
later on.
No telling what he had for breakfast.
I don't know. Think about it. Please don't say chili.
Did you? Yeah, sorry. That was a very sensitive topic. Were you journaling as well while you're working on this book?
Well, interesting. I just recently went back through a Bible study that I had done, Trusting God, and another one called The Quest by Beth Moore. And I was looking through my notes. I'm like, oh wow, that's where from that Bible study I got that thought process. It's in the book, you know. And then I don't really journal, but I keep a gift list. And so, and my gift list is just gifts that God has given me. So, and they might be as simple as, you know, I have a dog named Mary, as in Christmas, and she might do something silly. And just the fact that God lets me have a dog named Mary, I get to live with Mary, that's a gift. So I do have a gift list, and that is actually this is on the back
of the book.
It's just, you know, as I was going through the days, married to Neil.
Do
you still do the gift list?
I still do the gift list.
What number are you on?
I'm on 11,000.
11,000?
And I don't catch them all, you know. I don't catch them all. But I just, each day in the morning when I have my coffee and just time with God, the first thing I do is I think about yesterday, and I just jot down any gifts that happened.
So that could be like a material thing, or an epiphany, or a
smile,
revelation.
a hug. Actually getting you with is that gas comment? That's probably going to show up on my gift list.
I hope so.
Yeah, I one-upped you one. You know, you know what I mean? Just
you might have to write that down a few times.
oh dear.
Here it is, bag of barbecue in my fridge.
Yeah, someone brought me a bag of barbecue. It's just like precious. And you want to know something that is really, 2 things. First, for Neil's service, what I did was I went through, at that time I was like up to 2,000, I went through and I got every single gift that was related to Neil. And for his celebration of life, what I did was I stood up and I explained how this came about, what I was doing, and then I just read the gift number and the gift. And it just let people see a side of Neil that I got to see all day, every day. And so sometimes, not a lot, but I do go back and just read different sections of my gift list, and I go, oh yeah, I forgot that God did that. I forgot,
Especially in hard times, isn't it easy to forget
It
all
is.
the good things that are still going on?
Mm-hmm. And there are,
Yeah.
in every, if you just look.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
4 years, she wrote down 11,000.
Well, minus 2, because I was up to 2,000. So
9,000
9,000
gifts in 4 years. I mean,
yeah,
so that's 2,000 gifts. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
That is a lot.
Gifts in a year that
Yeah.
we have to be thankful for, but we don't track them. We forget them real easy.
Mhm.
yeah. And
But,
life is busy.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. Some people journal, some people, and I'm not a journaler, but that's really easy for me. Cup of coffee, my favorite color pen. What did God do yesterday?
But we have to be thankful for all these. I mean, you
Yeah.
thankful for all 11,000 things.
Yeah, just I am
And
so.
that's a lot.
So I think that's a really important lesson when you're going through something as horrible as what you went through. It could be worse, but
or
also
during the pandemic.
or a
Somebody
pandemic,
wrote
there are
down
still good things going on
Mhm.
around us all the time.
She
Yeah.
lost her
And-
husband, the pandemic, the last couple of years,
Yeah,
and a
Mhm.
lot of things happening. I mean, real life. But you found
yeah.
all these things to be thankful for.
I think if I've learned anything, where I let my thoughts stay deeply affects my emotions. So I get to choose. I can think about, and there are things about Neil being sick that were hard.
Mhm.
I can dwell there. I'm not saying I don't think about them. I allow that thought process to happen, but then I move on.
Mm.
I try to keep, and I'm not being like Pollyanna, happy girl. It's just I try to focus more on the good gifts because it has a big effect on how I feel emotionally.
I think that's really good advice, and we will come back for more advice in just a minute.
Welcome to the third chair. We have our guest Tracy. I'm going to introduce her first because Peter's always so thrilled to be introduced. I'm going to keep it from him for a while.
Anticipation.
That's right.
Anticipation.
But that's Peter.
Uh-huh.
We would not make you buy his record.
Peter live.
Yes. Okay. We touched on Neil's business because you mentioned guitars, but can you tell us how he got into the guitar business?
Yes. Well, he's always been musical and always interested in guitars. And even when we were newlyweds, he would be like, someone would have a electric guitar and he would like refinish it for him or paint it where, he was always fiddling or fiddling. I can't believe I said that.
That sounds like a Peter joke.
My father-in-law would be proud.
Oh,
You
yeah.
better switch chairs so you don't get too influenced
That's
by it.
right.
Let's just keep strumming along. Yeah.
Oh,
But anyway, so when we lived in Nashville and we lived in the garage and we were doing the inner city ministry with the kids, we did not have financial support. We really didn't. And so we ended up having to stop doing that and get jobs. And Neil got a job at Gibson Guitar. And his job actually was, Gibson had bought Dobro Corporation. And they had shipped all of the Dobro parts and jigs and everything to Nashville, and they were just sitting in a room. And so they had hired Neil, wanting him to assemble the already made parts. But Neil was like, why don't we figure out how to make them? And so he reverse engineered how to make a dobro and got that division up and running, and it is still running. Dobro was a part, there was a portion of Gibson called OAI, which is original acoustical instruments. And so that was a time when he really learned a lot of information about building guitars. Mm-hmm. So when we decided to move to Maine, I was very surprised because he loved his job at Gibson, loved it. It was just like he loved going to work. And we chose to leave Nashville and leave Gibson, but he had some nieces and nephews that were graduating from high school that he didn't know, and he said, I don't want to not know my family, my parents, I want to be near them. So what we did was we moved to Maine, and we both got jobs, but we had a house and a 2-car garage. He began his business. So at first he worked full-time at his job and part-time in the business, and so slowly we changed that to where he was full-time, building guitars or doing whatever we had to do to pay bills. We did landscaping, we did made wooden products. We started working for this company that I take care of. So yeah, that's kind of how, he was always interested in instruments. Now he had a background in cabinet making. He'd been a cabinet maker. In fact, when he moved from Maine to Georgia, he thought he was coming to make cabinets. He actually was coming to meet me, but he didn't realize that. He thought he was going to make cabinets. And so he worked at a cabinet shop and then got to the point where he was running the cabinet shop. And so yeah, he's, strong building background. His dad's excellent builder, has a lot of, built a lot of places. So he's got it genetically, and he was interested in it, and then he had just training in the School of Hard Knocks, So yeah, that's kind of how it got going. And then, the way I got involved, can I tell you that part?
yes.
Okay.
Please.
So the way I got involved is he had a huge order from this company that I take care of, and it was like more than he could do. So I did my bookkeeping job in the daytime, and then in the evening I would help him. And so we did this whole, got the whole order done. And when we got all done, I was like, wow, Neil, that was really fun. I like woodworking. Can we build a guitar together? And he's like, well, yeah, I suppose we could buy a kit. And I was like, a kit? You're a luthier. No way. And so we both built a guitar. He built one. We built the same guitar, the same model, separate guitars. So he built one and I built the other. So he would do something and I would watch and learn. And then we would do it together on mine. And it was like this wonderful experience of like learning from my husband and learning how to build
so
stuff.
where's that first guitar you built?
Sold it.
Sold it.
Sold my first guitar. So then, as time went on, I would help him part-time. But as the business grew and as the company that I worked for gave us more and more work, but his guitar division was growing, we decided it was time for me to come home we were working hard to pay off, some of the equipment, like we had a tractor and stuff like that. So we were getting all that stuff paid to where we could survive, both of us being self-employed, because, it's not always consistent. And so in June of 2012, I came to work full-time with Neil. So I am
that's nice.
coming up on 10 years of being a full-time woodworker, which is just like crazy.
Yeah, way better than a bookkeeper.
Way better.
So did Neil, were guitars his favorite thing to build? Or was it something else?
He did love building guitars and dobros. He did also make ukuleles. He made a bunch of those. He did a lot of repairs. Repairs were kind of the bread and butter. But Neil just loved life and everything. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys that no matter what it was that he did, he loved. He built a cabin for our father, when his wife passed away, and we knew we needed to take care of him, but we thought things might go better if he was in a separate house. So he built a little cabin that I have on my property. That's just beautiful, So I wouldn't say he loved them a lot, but I think he had a lot of favorites.
You use the
favorite guitars that he built, or favorite
things to do
made?
And build and make.
You said a dobro for us simple country folk. What is that?
If you were simple country folk,
you would know what a dobro is.
Yeah.
Dobros came about in the 1920s. It was the Doppeliero brothers. I think I'm saying that right. It was when amplification was coming about, and there was competition for sound in a band, and so they invented this. It's got a resophonic cone in the body of the guitar, and so it's like a little amplifier. So it's a very
kind of a primitive electric.
Yeah, it's a lot of bluegrass music. It's a very distinct sound.
Did Elvis or Johnny Cash?
No. Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Did Johnny Cash
sang a song? Papa played the dobro this away.
There you go.
And it had a dobro in the background. I think Luther played it.
Yeah.
Luther Perkins.
Very cool.
Yeah, one song that he recorded.
So, did you really know what a dobro was?
Yeah, because I remember that song when I was a kid. I probably heard that song about 100 times because my mom always played it.
I mean, this is a terrible day because truly accountants are smarter than doctors.
When we left Nashville, my company gave me a pen. Neil's company built him a dobro.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I still have the dobro that they built.
I thought you were going to say you still have the pen.
No, I lost the pen.
I forget the pen.
What am I, chopped liver?
Yeah. Oh man.
They went all out to get you that pen.
That was it was big stuff. Yeah.
What's the most difficult thing you've tried to build woodworking? And either succeeded or failed?
Shelves that were larger than me that I had to carry up about 22 stairs, try to fit, mark out, carry down 22 stairs, cut, carry up 22 stairs, try to fit. It's the hardest job I've ever done, and it was when I began, when Neil and I, we'd do anything, because he was the brains and I was the brawn. Like, not really, but sort of.
It's kind of how it is with my marriage.
Yeah. So I kind of had to learn that.
You're not the brains, Peter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
It was one of those jobs where I began to learn that I'm not Neil and Tracy anymore. And I have to learn to say no. And that's been one of the lessons in my life, is it is okay to say no. Yeah.
It's a good lesson to learn,
Yeah.
actually.
I did get a lot of exercise.
I did get a lot of exercise. That's
carrying
toughest.
that wood up the
It
stairs.
was huge. At least it was pine.
And you told me there was one time you were doing some sort of woodworking where you're trying to screw a screw with your left hand, and it was just really hard.
Something?
Yeah. I followed my
But I'm left-handed, actually, so it would have been my right hand. Yeah. I remember on that job, it was really late. And I was doing a sheetrock molly, which is it's a little plastic thing with fins on it. Oh, do we need to stop?
We should hold that thought just for a moment.
We're here to sheet mauling story.
That's right. When we come back, We will maul the sheet rock.
Say that fast 3 times. Welcome to the third chair. Peter, what is Tracy going to talk about?
Look,
What
we
it
ended
was?
on a question. You remember what it was?
No, I don't.
You don't?
There's something with, you were building something.
Oh yeah, the sheetrock molly. Sheetrock molly. Yeah.
Sheet rock molly.
Wow.
Yeah, be
We're
careful
gonna have
saying that fast.
Yeah, we're going to have to shorten our commercials between it.
Yeah, to fit all this in. Yeah.
No, so that we remember when we come back.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was this job that I took, and I remember it was like I had been there at it all day. It was around midnight, and I was just tired. And the house where I was working, it was like super hot. And I was just like, I'm just going to do one more thing before I go to bed, because I'm like I'm a little bit driven and pushing, and I'm learning to not do that. So anyway, I was using this sheetrock molly to attach some bracing to the wall to set the shelf on. And you know how you just do really stupid stuff when you're tired? And I got those...
Daily.
I don't have to be tired. That's my problem.
Yeah, I'm
just
quite
comes out,
capable.
yeah.
I mean, it's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So I got the screw a little bit cross-threaded in the sheetrock molly, and I was sitting on the ground, and I had the drill, and I did not feel like getting up and going downstairs, all those stairs, and getting a pair of pliers. And so I thought, well, maybe I can just hold the fins of the sheetrock molly and very slowly back the screw out. And I actually said out loud, I wonder if this is going to hurt. And then I hit the drill, and I just sliced my hand wide open. And I can just
You didn't
see,
have to wonder for long.
no, I can just see, I just imagine God saying, don't do it, it's going to hurt, you know. And I was just like, okay, that's it, I'm going to bed.
You even
got
got-
a
you just-
Band-Aid, and
that was a
went
good
to bed. It was a
decision,
good
man.
decision.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
No. But fortunately, that job was for some dear friends, and they were compassionate and understood, and we've talked
They
about
understood the blood on the.
it. Well, they understood, what, you know, me.
They gave you a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
Oh no, I travel with Band-Aids.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
use a
right.
lot of Band-Aids.
Now, when we were in pre-production, there was a serious thing you told me that a couple of serious things that I wanted to give you a chance to talk about. One was the idea of if someone becomes a widow, a newly widow. You talked about how there are things that well-meaning people can do to really screw them up and really cause a lot of pain. Share your perspective on that, because everyone wants to try and do the right thing, and they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. What was your observations about that from what you saw and experienced?
I feel like as a new, you know, for a new widow or widower or parent who lost a child, you know, anybody who's suffered loss, I think that mostly we should just love them. Just love them. And it's not too hard to love. We have such a desire to fix, and there's just no fixing that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fix it. So I think that as long as they're not a danger to themselves, whatever they're doing to grieve is okay. I think we all grieve differently, and it is okay. Now, I will say that since that conversation, in our church body, we lost 2 men.
Oh my
3
goodness.
weeks apart, have 2 brand new widows. And I found that it is very hard to not want to fix. I feel like I could have been a better that the cats?
No.
I could have been a better
Support person.
support
friend.
person, and I was able to catch myself and stop it. But I think just love them, you know, because even though I've been through it in my way, I don't know what it was like for these two women. Every relationship is different. Every circumstances of death is different.
And then we're all different. I mean,
Yeah, we're all different.
I
We're all
mean,
different.
I mean, some of the things that I've seen that have always troubled me is in some of the denominations, there's like, like hurry up and grieve and get over it. God is so good. The Spirit is so powerful. All these, God is so whatever that you shouldn't even be feeling this way. And I feel like it kind of cheapens it.
It does. I feel like a person well loved is worth grieving well.
And grieving with, perhaps.
Yeah, grieving well. I loved my husband. He was worth a year plus of grief. He was a wonderful guy. And, I find that the less, because you do see, I just want to be done, the less we fight it, the more we accept it and just walk through it. I think it's a little easier on us because at least we don't have within us that fight that I want to be done. It's just like, I'm going to walk through this.
We had a guest, and he said that somebody had lost a loved one, and it took her 2 years. He says, "Yeah, we had to be patient, but
Yeah.
I mean, but she needed it,
She needed it,
and,
yeah.
and afterwards you can see that, and that's where we got to try to.
You
I
know,
mean, because men especially like to fix things.
Sure, I think we all do, yeah.
Oh, my wife's also a big fixer. I mean, sensitive, but still wants to let's make it better and get on and solve the problem.
Sometimes
Yeah.
the best way to fix them is pull back and
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I do have a story. My sister had a dear friend who had cancer and was very, very, very sick. And my sister told me the story that she went over to the friend's house and she wanted to do something to fix it. And the friend just looked at her and said, "I am too sick to come up with something that will make you feel better about yourself." Now that was a very harsh word, but I have taken that to heart. Sometimes what I want to do to help someone is to make me feel good about helping someone.
Sure.
And so I want to kind of have that thought process. It's not how I feel about being helpful, it's how am I really helping this person? And it just takes some thought process and unfortunately practice. You have to be around people who have had loss, which is not hard to find in this world.
No, especially during this COVID season.
Yeah.
You told me something else too that I've thought a lot about since we did the pre-production meeting, and that was the idea that a widow may have certain objects around the house, pictures, different things, and if you touch them or move them, you cause almost an emotional deterioration. I never really thought about that. It's like I'm just thinking, oh, I'll help you clean up.
Yeah.
Yeah. My 82-year-old mother-in-law lives with me, and even 10 years after the death of her husband, I still see elements of that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I was so touched. My sister came to spend a month with me about a month and a half after Neil died, and she told me at one point, I read about how to help someone's grieving, and they said, do not clean up. And so she didn't. I mean, and that just touches my heart that she would think, how can I don't know how to help Tracy, let me find out how to help Tracy. And it was just precious to me.
It is nice, and I mean that's one of the things we could do when something like that is find out, because there's certain things you shouldn't do that just make it worse, and you think it's helpful. And
Right.
But the one thing I've learned too, though, is that sometimes just being with a person, even if you don't talk, a lot of times that is just as fine.
Enough.
That's enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I do want to say that when we say loss, yes, there is death, but there is divorce and there is estranged families. Those are all losses.
Oh, they're all
that,
losses.
That generate grief. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we get a lot of
even
practice.
wayward children,
Yeah.
people in the throes of addiction,
Or a
all
lost
kinds of
job.
things.
Lost
Lost
that's
job.
a loss. Yeah. There's
Well, I think we've lost track of the time. And so we'll end this segment. When we come back, we will have a surprise topic. And when we come back, I'll even find out what that is.
Together, we will figure it out during the break.
Yeah, we're on the break, yes. Okay.
Welcome to the third chair where we have our timer going.
We are, and I lost the coin toss. I wanted to talk about the Beatles or JFK, but no, we're going to talk about
Dogs.
Yeah.
Peter's favorite
dogs.
subject. He loves dogs.
Oh, that
Throwing
reminds me of a
dogs.
joke. Did you hear about the dyslexic, anxious atheist? He stayed up all night wondering if there really was a dog.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to buy you any more joke books.
That's it. You're all done. You're done. You're toast.
You're cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about your dogs.
Well, I have. I still have one dog, Merry Christmas Flewelling. She is actually. Well, I guess she's my 5th golden retriever because we had her father, who. So I've had 6 golden retrievers with Neil, and 2 golden retrievers by myself. And I'm a big I love all dogs, but I'm a golden retriever fan. And she is just such a joy.
Okay.
Gentlest dog.
I just realized something.
What?
You're talking Mary as in Merry. I've been sitting here the whole time thinking Mary.
Everybody does, and that's why
they say Merry
That's why,
Christmas.
that's why she said it 5 times so you would
Yeah,
get
I
it.
know. Yeah,
That's
ho,
why I
ho, ho,
made her
yeah.
middle name Christmas,
So-
because then I don't have to explain
Well,
it.
there's Mary, the mother of Jesus. I thought,
Right,
that
yeah.
still sort of fit
But
with the
there's
Christmas
also Mary,
spirit.
I'm so happy when I steal your sock, and that is what she is.
Oh,
so-
yeah, my
and you
little dog,
were
yeah.
talking about the book that Neil wrote. There's a whole chapter, The World According to Mary and Emmett, and how many life lessons we get from our dogs. And
no, so
you
true.
would know that because you have had a lot of dogs.
Yeah, my dog chewed both my Canadian and American passport.
Yes.
Yeah, that shows.
They don't.
And it's a
they're
Chihuahua.
prejudiced.
No,
It's
not at
get
all.
this high off the ground. And it's,
Wow.
so I don't know how Peter does that.
Yeah.
I left my computer bag on the ground.
That's-
Immediately punished.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Peter doesn't like dogs because they're smarter than him. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
That
able
and accountants.
He hasn't met. I don't think my dog is smarter than Peter. I don't think she's not very smart.
She's
probably better-
adorable, though.
How many successful sock capers has she pulled off?
Many.
So she's smarter than you think.
Yeah, she's smarter than I think. Well, she is smarter because when we got her, she had lived at a home where there were little girls. And she had eaten a few socks. And Neil and I were like, we don't want to pay for sock surgery. So we taught her if she got a prize and she gave it to us, we'd give her a cookie. And we never paid for sock surgery. We spent all that money on cookies.
Wow.
Because she learned. And so if I'm working in the shop and she's hanging out with me and I'm like using my orbital sander and it has this air, like an air puff, and it might blow like a little piece of paper off of the workbench onto the ground, and she can be asleep, I'm not kidding, on the other side of the room, and she will wake up and come over and pick up that piece of paper and
For a
and
treat.
trade for a cookie.
Wow, my wife does the same
smart.
thing when I take out the garbage. I get a treat.
Oh, I thought you meant she picked up a piece of paper off the ground
Oh,
and
yeah,
growled
but-
for a treat.
Isn't it amazing how much love a dog can give you? When I got a dog, I was surprised. Doug knew, of course, and our producer knew, but I was like flabbergasted just how much I love this little animal.
They're really
Oh,
cool.
man.
Yeah.
Do anything for her.
Yep.
I
Totally get it.
I used to hear about people paying $10,000 cash to get a hip replacement for their dog, and I thought, that is absolutely insane. And you know what? If my dog needed one now, I would seriously
out
look
how to
into
do
it.
it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they become family. Yeah. I always say I want to have a dog so I don't become like a crazy old lady that talks to herself. You know? I talk to my dog. I'm not crazy.
And the dogs understand.
They do.
I mean,
Yes,
they
they
look
do.
at you and
But do you ever tie antlers onto her head?
No, I do not. I will not. Who does that in here?
The Grinch.
Yeah. No, I don't do that. No. Good dog. I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Wow, a real blessing. On your gratitude list, on your blessing list.
Oh,
it's
yes.
like they say in Mill Dog, it's who rescued who, and I bet Mary was a lot of help.
Oh,
these
oh
last
my
4
goodness.
years.
Absolute therapy dog. Yeah. And,
She's probably 1,000 of those 9,000.
well, I actually do start each day. My first gift is another good day with Mary. And sometimes I say, well, that feels like cheating, but it's not, because each day it is a gift. You know.
Wow.
Because at one point the vet thought Mary.
Yes,
was
he
gonna-
said she was not going to make it through the summer, and then he said, oh no, she's doing okay. I guess she's okay. And then he said, oh, she's not going to make it through January. But you know what? Nobody told Mary. That's an interesting thing there, that we do not have that. They don't carry that baggage.
No, they
when they
don't.
get bad news, they're like, is there a cookie in there for me?
Yeah. As long as you get a cookie, they're happy.
Yeah. That's
Well, on the note of being happy and eating cookies and perhaps lasagna, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to put on the screen your contact information, your website, in case people want to look into the products you make and that sort of thing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You
I
have been
really
an
enjoyed
absolute pleasure.
Thank
it.
you
It's
for
a
being
real
a guest.
blessing. Thank you so
I think
much.
we can definitely say that, Tracy, that you are smarter than both of the co-hosts.
Well, that's kind of an insult for Tracy.
Are you saying it's a low bar?
Yeah, it's a very low bar.
Yeah. Well, on that happy note, raise your bar by subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell notification icon so you'll know when we've uploaded an episode. From the Third Chair and 2 Minute Duck Entertainment, good night. We'll see you next week.
This has been The Third Chair. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.